Hopefully, you're gonna learn something new and have some fun. But today, as you just heard, we're gonna talk about how technology and humanity can have a better relationship. And I'm gonna show you two cases of work we've done recently from Virtue. One is actually a sneak peek. It's a project that's launching next week. So it's not all me just talking, but also me actually showing you how we at least try to conquer this relationship between technology and humanity. So just a bit of an introduction. My name is Emil. I'm born and raised in Copenhagen, still working here in Copenhagen. So I have a background as a writer. I have a dog that I really like to walk, so I guess I'm also a dog walker quite often. And then I'm a creative director at Virtue, which is the creative agency by Vice Media. And Vice Media is a big global media company, and there's a magazine that some of you, if you ever skateboarded or snowboarded, probably know about. And there's also a TV channel now, and there's a cooking show, and there's a lot of different stuff. But there's also a creative agency called Virtue, and we work with customers and clients, and we help push their business. But we also tend to do projects with NGOs that are a little bit more sort of point of view based, and those are some of them I'm gonna show you today. So the whole beginning of this talk is actually summarized really neatly in this quote from a philosopher. It goes, "Technology is too important to be left with technologists." And I think there's something really smart about that, because we have a tendency to leave technology and tech in general to the coders, to the Googles and the Microsoft, and say, hey, I don't know about coding, that's up to you. But a couple of years ago at Virtue, we sort of had a new thought that, because I mean, I have a background in writing, and I can't code to save my life. But that doesn't mean I actually can't work in tech, because technology is essentially everything now. If you look at technology, it's shaping our society, it's shaping our ethics, even our own existence at some point. So we believe that all of those things should also be shaping technology right back. So if we look at what's been happening in the world, there's many examples, but Me Too is a good example of how a movement has been born out of a hashtag. So hashtags is something that from a long time ago was born to categorize content on social media. And all of a sudden, this tool for categorization got picked up all over the world and became a symbol of a new movement, and a new sort of a fight against old power structures. So an exciting way of taking one thing that was created as a very sort of cold technological thing, and then turned into a whole big movement. We also quite recently in the US election saw how the TikTok users, they made a fool out of the world's most powerful man. So the interesting thing is that a lot of grown-ups for a long time, myself included, thought that TikTok was just something for kids who like to dance and show off. But all of a sudden, this quote-unquote dance app turned into a big political movement. And what they did, in case you didn't know, so for this Trump rally during the middle of the pandemic, TikTok users, they started picking up all of the tickets for this rally. So Trump and his administration thought it was going to be the biggest rally in political history, with millions of people attending. But in reality, they were actually just tricked by teenagers, and a few thousand people showed up. So technology have a huge impact and a huge power in our society when human beings use it. But interesting thing is that when we look at how tech innovations are presented, it still look a lot like this. So this is the screen that can be folded. So it seems that tech companies, at least, they're still very focused on bigger screen, more megapixels, faster processor, stuff that is innovation, but seems to be innovation for the sake of technology. And as I said, we have a very different point of view at Virtue about how technology should be used. because we believe that innovation in technology should progress humanity, because innovation is a lot more than, more pixels and faster computers. So we believe it can actually be a tool that can push humanity forward, and it can really help us build a better future. By better future, I mean a future that we want. So instead of just letting be up to coders and say, hey, this is your responsibility to make sure that the tech you're building is pushing humanity forward and not just technology. This is sort of a rallying cry for all of us to get involved, even though we can't code to save our lives, but to give an opinion and a point of view, and actually see how can we take technology and make it progress humanity. So, as I said, this is not me just talking to you guys about what you should be doing. I've taken two examples of work where we really try to take technology and pair it up with progressing humanity. So I'm going to take you through cases that we've done. One is one we did a year and a half ago called Meet Q, the Genderless Voice project we did with the Pride organization. And one is, not going to say a world premiere because that sounds so big, but it's a sneak peek for a completely new project we've done with the D&AD Museum out of Berlin called Tear Down This Wall. So at first I'm going to talk you through a bit of the Q, the Genderless Voice, and I'm going to show you a film explaining it because that explains it a lot better than I can. But it was basically born out of this very sort of philosophical question that why do we gender technology? So this project was born right when the voice assistants were entering everywhere. And we looked at that we had, Siri, Alexa, Google Assistant, Cortana, and they all come with a female sounding voice per default. So we started researching into that because we thought this can't be, just a coincidence. And we actually found out it's because when the tech companies, they go out and ask people which type of voice they prefer, they all say female. And that taps into sort of a big bias that has been living in our society for a long time, that secretaries, they tend to be female. So we were much more comfortable with giving orders to a female sounding voice. But then we thought, well, just because it used to be like that doesn't mean that this voice assistant revolution should, take that bias and put it into the future. So we started looking into, different types of voice assistants because we thought there must be someone who'd done a voice assistant that wasn't gendered. And what we found out that didn't exist. Almost all of the big voice assistants, they come as female by default. But when we look into the options, there was also just only two options, male and female, which first glance makes sense. But if you look at what's happening in the real world in terms of gender, we see more and more people who don't identify as strictly male or female. Actually, a survey amongst Gen Z in the US said that 41% they don't identify as strictly male or female. So gender is becoming much more fluid, which is interesting because then when we take technology, which is essentially genderless, we as humans put them in these boxes. So we thought it was time to create Q, which is the first genderless voice for AI voice assistants. So I'm going to take you through the case video now. It's only 2 minutes, so stick around.
Although I have typically female biological sex characteristics, my gender identity is non-binary. I am not a man or a woman. This bill is a victory and an important step towards equality.
Companies turn to different types of research that tells them people expect a female voice. Sometimes we go back to these stereotypes, and what happens is we're reinforcing them. We're not changing them. There's no reason we can't have more options.
Audio researchers defined a frequency range which is neutral. We recorded several voices, worked on the pitch, we worked on the format filter, and we worked on the tone of the voice. We tested several different voices on thousands of people. to create a gender-neutral voice.
Yeah, society always wants to put you in a box.
I hope that people would not assume gender based on voices more in the future.
My voice is more than a pre-assigned gender.
My voice is more than a box to click.
My voice is more than this
or that. It's everything in between.
It's a voice of progression,
a voice of hope.
A voice that moves us forward when others are looking back.
The first Genderless Voice premiered this week.
A new UN report says
giving digital assistants like Siri and Alexa female voices reinforces gender stereotypes.
AI technology should be more inclusive, both in terms of its production and also in terms of its outreach.
Have you ever wondered what a genderless voice sounds like?
As a more inclusive voice
to fight
option.
bias
this
against
essentially
we
will help for you to see.
Here is what it sounds like.
Hi, I'm Q, the world's first genderless voice assistant.
So if you want to learn more about Q, you can go to genderlessvoice.com and hear much more. But essentially what we try to do is say, how can this voice revolution that Siri and Alexa are bringing along, how can it also be a revolution in terms of inclusivity? And then I'm going to talk you through this completely new project called Tear Down This Wall that we did with the D&AD Museum. So it was actually started by this insight that it seems like history is repeating itself because, as you probably seen from this picture, border walls, they're actually coming back in the world. So half of the world's border walls, they've been built after the year 2000. And of course, as you see, Trump's wall has been the most prominent and probably the most famous, even though it's not done yet. And we started looking into why is this happening, and it turns out that it's actually because we've sort of forgot about what walls do to a society and to humans. And we looked into, especially in Berlin, I mean, you probably all know the very famous Berlin Wall, but 29% of Germans who are alive today, they were born after the wall fell, and they actually don't have a very clear memory of that time. So that thing was happening, and then we saw another things changing in society, which was that gaming is actually much more than fun and games now. So this is a picture from Minecraft Earth, which is essentially, most of you probably know Minecraft, which is about building a classic computer game, and then it's sort of mixed with Pokemon Go, where you go around in the real world. So what you can do is that you can actually build stuff in the real world, and you can also tear it down. So we thought, okay, there's an interesting sort of perfect storm here that people are forgetting, especially younger people are forgetting the consequence of building walls. And now we actually have a tool and a game in most young people's pockets that can actually show these consequences. And from that perfect storm, this project was born, which is called Tear Down This Wall. And this is a world premiere, so I hope you like it.
This wall is still a kind of ghostly presence here. I mean, it's not like you can avoid it.
It was very hard to live in our GDR.
Die Mauern, die noch in den Köpfen besteht, die kann man nur selber einreißen.
In older generations, it was something real, but in my generation, it's more like a pop cultural thing.
I wouldn't say it matters at all today.
Most people don't know anything about it.
Minecraft Earth is a brand new game which mixes Minecraft with Pokemon Go. So you throw down something called a build plate, and you can either fit an entire house on a table, or you can go supersized.
Games are effective for learning because they provide this first-hand experience. You get to see the things that the people might have seen through actually engaging with the subject. You can create a well-rounded understanding of it.
We rebuilt parts of the Berlin Wall inside Minecraft Earth and placed them on the exact locations where they used to stand.
through this immersion, you get a very strong emotional connection to the space. So instead of an observer, you become actually a witness of it.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
This is the first educational tool for Minecraft Earth, and all the build plates are available for everyone. We are giving the next generation the possibility to tear down the wall in augmented reality. Because we don't want to see another wall in reality.
So if you want to try it out, you can go to teardownwalls.org, teardownwalls.org. And if you have Minecraft Earth on your phone or tablet, that's free to download, you can actually try it yourself to place these walls around the world and tear them down and have that experience yourself. So to wrap up, I think what I want you to take from this this speech and film and all this is that we can create a very beautiful relationship between tech and people, where technology is not just innovating for the sake of becoming smaller or faster, but it's actually innovating with people to create a future that is better for us all. So it's also an encouragement for all of you who might not be coders or are very techie like myself, to give your point of view and actually help push the boundaries for what tech is doing and for what tech can do. So that's it. Feel free to hit me up at my email or my website if you have questions or want to talk. But thank you so much, everyone.